In a quiet African village, nestled between rolling hills and fields of yam and cassava, there lived an old woman named Mama Nnena. Her name was known by everyone, but not in the way names are remembered with honor. No, hers was a name carried by whispers, followed by laughter, often spoken with pity or scorn. Mama Nnena's back was bent with age. Her wrapper was faded from years of washing and rewashing, and her slippers were so worn that her toes touched the dusty ground. She often carried a small basket, gathering firewood or buying only the smallest measure of grain. She never spoke much. She walked slowly, her eyes cast down, her hands steady but tired to the villagers. She was an image of poverty, of failure, of loneliness. One afternoon, as the scorching sun beat down on the red earth, some market women saw her approach. They were seated in a circle, selling tomatoes, beans, and smoked fish. Their wrappers were bright, their voices loud, and their laughter sharp. Look at her again," one of them said, pointing at Mama Nnena as she passed. Another laughed, clapping her hands. "Ha! This woman will never change. Always dirty, always in rags. Does she not know shame?" The others joined in, their voices rising above the market noise. Even the young boys carrying firewood paused to snicker. A girl whispered loudly enough for all to hear, "Maybe her soap finished 10 years ago." And the whole group burst into laughter, but Mama Nnena did not respond. She only adjusted the basket on her arm and continued walking, as though she had not heard. Her silence made them laugh even harder. At the pepper stall, she picked just 2 small peppers and asked for a pinch of salt. The seller gave it to her with a smirk. "Ah, Mama Nnena, is this how you eat? Just salt and pepper? What kind of stomach do you have?" Another woman chimed in, "Maybe she licks the salt and dreams of meat." The laughter spread again, like fire catching in dry grass. Passersby turned to see what was happening, and soon half the market was giggling at the sight of the frail woman with her tiny purchases. Children, too, were not kind. Whenever Mama Nnena walked past them, they sang cruel songs. Dirty mama, clothes of dust, wrapper of shame. Sometimes they even threw pebbles or dry leaves at her. The parents, instead of scolding their children, only laughed and said, "Good, let her know how she looks." But Mama Nnena never lifted her head to answer. She never shouted at them. She never cursed. She simply walked on. At night, when the moon rose and the drums began to beat in the village square, the laughter continued. The young girls came out in their finest wrappers, beads glittering around their necks, hair freshly plaited. The boys beat drums and clapped while dancers moved in the moonlight. The air smelled of roasted yam and palm wine. And then Mama Nnena passed by on her way home. The drumming faltered for a moment, and whispers began to spread. "Look at her! She even comes here? Why, can she not stay in her hut?" The laughter came again, sharp and cutting. Some of the younger ones called out, "Dance for us, dirty mama! Show us your ragged steps!" The girls laughed until their sides ached. The boys stamped their feet. The elders frowned but said nothing. And Mama Nnena walked on, her face calm, her steps slow. To the villagers, her silence was weakness. To them, it was proof that she had no dignity left. But little did they know, her silence carried more strength than their laughter. She bore her suffering not because she was powerless, but because she was patient. The next morning, at the stream, women gathered to fetch water. Their pots shone in the sunlight, their laughter loud. Soon, the topic of conversation shifted again to Mama Nnena. "That woman is cursed," one said as she rinsed her wrapper. "Cursed indeed," another replied. "How can a woman reach that age and have no family, no wealth, no respect? Surely the gods turned their faces from her." A younger woman, full of pride, added, "If my life ever becomes like hers, I would rather die." Look at me. I have a husband. I have children. I wear fine clothes. Who will laugh at me? Never. They all agreed, shaking their heads. One even spat into the stream and said, "Better to drown than to live like Mama Nnena." The word spread. By evening, the elders themselves had begun to notice. Sitting beneath the great iroko tree, one elder stroked his beard and said, "That old woman is a shame to us all. She walks about like a beggar. Perhaps she offended the gods. Perhaps her sins have caught up with her." Another elder replied, "A tree without roots falls easily. Maybe that is her fate. She has no husband, no children, no respect. What else is she but a fallen tree?" The younger men nearby nodded. The image of Mama Nnena had become a proverb in their mouths, a warning of failure. Fathers began using her as an example for their daughters. Do not grow stubborn, or you will end like that old woman. Respect your husband, or your end will be like Mama Nina's, lonely and dirty. Even the chief of the village had begun to shake his head. Whenever he saw her pass, then came the harvest festival. It was the most joyous day of the year. Drums thundered. The smell of roasted goat and palm wine filled the air. Children ran about with roasted corn. Men wore their finest wrappers. Women braided their hair in intricate styles. The entire village sparkled with laughter, pride, and wealth. The chief himself stood tall, holding his staff of office, his beads rattling with every step. He looked upon his people with pride. And then Mama Nnena entered the square. Her wrapper was the same old faded cloth. Her hair was unkempt, her feet dusty. She walked slowly, carrying nothing, looking like a shadow among the bright colors. The music faltered. Whispers began. Then the laughter followed. "Ah, she even dares to come here? What will she eat? Does she think the feast is for beggars? Go back to your hut, dirty mama. This is not your place." Some threw groundnuts at her. Others clapped their hands in mockery. Even the children began to chant the cruel song again. The chief frowned deeply. "This woman brings shame to us all," he muttered. Mama Nnena stopped in the middle of the square. Her eyes, for the first time, lifted to the crowd. There was something in them, calm but powerful, a light that silenced a few voices. But before anyone could speak, she lowered her head again and walked away, vanishing into the night. The laughter followed her into the darkness. What the villagers did not know was that their laughter was about to end forever. For in the coming days, Mama Nnena's secret would rise like the sun, and the whole village would gather not to mock her, but to tremble before the truth of who she really was. The days after the harvest festival were quiet in the village, yet an uneasiness began to spread like smoke that no one could see, but everyone could smell. The laughter that once erupted at the sight of Mama Nnena started to falter, not because the people suddenly grew kind, but because strange things were happening, small things. At first, it began at the stream. 3 young women went one morning to fetch water. They mocked Mama Nnena as usual, tossing pebbles into the water near her. "Claypot, old woman, why not drink from the mud? It suits you better." One of them jeered. Mama Nnena said nothing. She only bent, filled her pot, and walked away slowly. But when the girls lifted their own pots, something strange happened. One pot cracked down the middle, spilling all its water back into the stream. The second slipped from the girl's head and shattered on the rocks. The third grew so unbearably heavy that the girl screamed, dropping it before her knees buckled. The women of the stream gasped. They had never seen such a thing. They looked around in confusion, but Mama Nnena was already gone, her frail figure vanishing into the trees. By the time they reached the village, the story had spread. Some said it was coincidence. Others whispered, "The old woman is not ordinary." A few days later, during the evening gathering under the great iroko tree, another incident shook the village. A young man named Abina, proud and loud, stood telling jokes about Mama Nnena. He strutted, bent his back like hers, and shuffled his feet, making the crowd erupt in laughter. "See me dirty mama herself," he mocked. The crowd howled, clapping their hands. But then, in the middle of his performance, Abina froze. His back twisted suddenly, his shoulders bent, and he let out a sharp cry. His friends rushed to him, but his body had stiffened, his spine bending. Like an old woman's, he stumbled, gasping, his laughter gone, his face pale with fear. The elders rushed forward, laying him on the ground. "What is this?" one shouted, but no one had an answer. Some said it was witchcraft, others said it was the anger of the gods. And though Abina recovered after a few days, he never mocked Mama Nnena again. From that day, fewer people laughed. When she passed, the cruel songs from the children grew quieter, and whispers replaced laughter. One night, as the moon rose high and the crickets sang, a storm broke over the village. Thunder cracked like the beating of giant drums, and rain poured until the earth turned to mud dot inside her small hut at the edge of the village. Mama Nnena sat by her clay lamp. The flame flickered, casting long shadows on the mud walls. Her basket of firewood lay by the door, her few belongings neatly stacked. She sat with her hands folded, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. Suddenly, there was a knock on her door, weak, hesitant. She rose slowly and opened it. There stood a small boy, drenched in rain, shivering. His mother, a woman known for mocking Mama Nnena, had sent him to fetch herbs for a fever, but he had lost his way in the storm. Without a word, Mama Nnena took the boy inside, dried his clothes by the fire, and gave him warm herbs to drink. The boy's shivers eased, and his eyes grew heavy. She covered him with her own wrapper and let him sleep on her mat dot when morning came. She guided him back to his home. His mother gasped when she saw him alive and well. "Who saved you?" she asked. The boy pointed. "Mama Nnena." The mother froze, shame burning her cheeks. For years she had laughed at the old woman, thrown insults, even joined in mocking songs. Yet now it was this same woman who had saved her son. Word spread quickly, and by the next market day, the whispers had grown louder. Is she really cursed? Or is she blessed? Who is she truly? But the true turning point came not in whispers, but in fire. One evening, a hut in the heart of the village caught flame. The wind spread it quickly, licking at rooftops, threatening to devour an entire row of homes. People screamed, running with buckets of water, but the fire only grew wilder, hotter. Children cried, women wailed, and the men shouted, their efforts hopeless against the roaring blaze. Then, through the smoke, a figure appeared bent, frail, walking slowly. Mama Nnena. She did not shout. She did not rush. She walked to the edge of the fire, lifted her hands, and whispered words no one could hear. And then, before the eyes of the entire village, the fire stopped. Not all at once, but as though the flames had bowed, shrinking back, dimming into smoke until only ashes remained. Silence fell over the square. The villagers stood frozen, their buckets still in their hands, their mouths open in disbelief. Mama Nnena lowered her hands, turned, and began to walk away. But this time, no one laughed. No one mocked. No one sang cruel songs. Instead, a murmur spread like a ripple on water. She is not ordinary. She carries power. Perhaps the gods walk with her. The chief himself rose from his seat and called out, "Wait." His voice carried authority, yet it trembled slightly. Mama Nnena paused but did not turn. The chief cleared his throat. "Who are you truly?" The old woman raised her head slowly. Her eyes, deep and calm, met his. For the first time, the entire village saw the strength within them, the strength of a woman who had endured, who had carried silence like a shield, who had walked through shame with dignity. But she did not answer. She simply turned again, and walked back into the shadows of the night, leaving the village in awe. From that day, the mockery ceased completely. No child sang cruel songs. No woman laughed at her faded wrapper. No man dared mimic her walk. Instead, they stepped aside when she passed. Some greeted her respectfully. Others bowed their heads. And yet, in the hearts of the people, questions burned hotter than the fire she had stopped. Who was Mama Nnena? Why had she hidden her power? And why, despite their cruelty, had she shown them mercy? The answer, they would soon learn, was far greater than anything they had imagined. The silence in the village did not last long. Silence never lasts where human tongues live. It only hides for a short while, waiting for the wind of gossip to carry it again. For though the villagers no longer laughed openly at Mama Nnena, whispers followed her wherever she walked. Men leaned against palm trees, women bent over baskets of cassava, and children gathered under the shade of huts, their voices lowered but sharp. "Did you see the fire?" one asked. "She stopped it," another replied. No, it was a trick. The wind shifted. But how did the pots break at the stream? How did Abina's back bend? Maybe she carries charms. Maybe she is a witch. The air was heavy with confusion, fear, and curiosity. And in confusion, there is always division. Some villagers argued she was blessed, a woman chosen by the gods. Others swore she was cursed, a witch who would bring ruin upon them. The debate grew so fierce that even the elders could no longer ignore it. One evening, the chief called a council under the great Iroko tree. The tree stood at the very center of the village, its roots thick as drums and its branches stretching toward the heavens. For generations, every matter of justice, dispute, or celebration had been settled there. The villagers gathered, their faces glowing in the light of torches. The old women came, clutching their walking sticks. The young men arrived, eager for drama. Even the children crept close, their wide eyes glimmering with curiosity. At the heart of it all sat the elder 7 of them, wise men with gray hair and tired eyes. The chief, tall and broad, sat at their center. A messenger was sent to fetch Mama Nnena. She arrived slowly, her wrapper tied loosely around her waist, her steps measured. She carried no staff, no charms, no protection, only her calm face and steady eyes. The crowd parted as she approached, silence falling like a heavy cloth. When she reached the tree, the chief cleared his throat. "Mama Nnena," he began, his voice deep, "you have lived among us for many seasons. We have mocked you, insulted you, and treated you as nothing. Yet now, strange things happen around you. Pots crack, fires die, and children are saved in storms. The people are restless. Some call you blessed, others call you cursed. Tonight, you must speak. Who are you truly?" The crowd leaned forward, waiting. Mama Nnena looked around slowly, her gaze sweeping across the villagers who once spat at her feet. She saw fear in their eyes, but also hunger, the hunger for answers. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she lowered herself to the ground and sat cross-legged, as though she were the one holding court. A murmur spread through the crowd, but none dared challenge her. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady, neither loud nor soft, but filled with weight. "You wish to know who I am? Then listen, and listen well, for I have carried silence too long." The villagers held their breath as she began. "I was not always the woman you mocked. Once I was the wife of a great man, a warrior who fought to protect this land. He was strong, brave, and beloved. Together we were respected, honored, and envied. But envy is a shadow that hides in hearts. When war came, my husband was betrayed. Men he trusted delivered him into the hands of the enemy. He died with honor, but his blood stained this soil. When I returned, I carried wealth, land, and treasures. But what did I find? The same people who once sang my praises turned their faces away. Greedy hands reached for what was mine. Piece by piece, they stripped me of everything. My farms were taken, my servants scattered, my name dragged in the dust. And so, I was left with nothing but the clothes on my back. I chose silence, not because I was weak, but because silence often speaks, louder than words. She paused, her eyes glistening in the firelight. The villagers shifted uncomfortably. Some lowered their heads in shame, remembering how they had laughed when she passed. But the gods are not blind, she continued. They do not sleep. They watched as you mocked me. They saw as you turned your children against me. They heard your laughter in the markets. And when the time came, they gave me signs, not to destroy you, but to remind you. Her voice grew firmer, echoing beneath the iroko tree. When the pots broke, it was not I who broke them. It was the gods reminding you of the fragility of pride. When the fire ceased, it was not I who quenched it. It was mercy showing you that destruction can be stayed. And when I saved the boy in the storm, it was not I who gave him life. It was compassion, teaching you that kindness survives even in the hearts you wound. The crowd was silent. Not even the crickets sang. But then, a man from the back shouted, "Lies! If she had such wealth, where is it now? If she is blessed, why does she wear rags? Mel, she is a witch, hiding in the shadow of our pity." A murmur rose. Some nodded, others shook their heads. Mama Nnena lifted her hand and the crowd stilled. "You ask of wealth? Then let the truth speak." She reached into the folds of her wrapper and drew out a small cowrie shell. To the ordinary eye, it was simple, dull, like any other. But as she held it to the firelight, it glowed faintly, its surface shimmering. "This is one of many," she said. "Buried, hidden, preserved. I kept them away, not from you, but from your greed. You judge me by my clothes, but wealth is not always carried on the back. Wealth is carried in wisdom, in patience, in silence." The elders leaned forward, their eyes wide. They knew what they were seeing, no ordinary shell, but one used in sacred trade, worth more than goats and cattle combined. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then Mama Nnena's eyes swept over them once more, sharp as the blade of a knife. "You wish to see who I am? Then tomorrow, come to the market square. There, you will learn the full truth." She rose slowly, her wrapper dragging against the earth, and walked away into the night. The village buzzed with tension. That night, no one slept. Some whispered that she truly was a witch who would curse them. Others said she was a queen in hiding, testing their hearts. Children dreamed of treasures, and women lay awake, guilt gnawing at their souls. By morning, the entire village crowded the market square. Traders abandoned their stalls, hunters left their traps, even the chief himself came with his guards. All waited for Mama Nnena. When she finally appeared, the sun was already high. She came not in rags, but in a fine wrapper no one had ever seen before, bright indigo with golden patterns. Around her neck hung a simple bead necklace that glowed faintly in the sunlight. But it was not her clothing that silenced the crowd. It was the line of men who followed her, strangers from a distant town. Carrying chests bound in rope. They set the chests down in the center of the square. At Mama Nnena's nod, they opened them. Gasps filled the air. Inside lay treasures, cowries, gold bracelets, carved ivory, and rolls of the finest cloth. Wealth beyond anything the villagers had imagined. Mama Nnena raised her voice. "You judged me by the dust on my wrapper. You mocked me by the bend of my back. You forgot the hand that once fed you, the roof that once sheltered you, the wealth that once built your homes. You laughed at me because you thought I had nothing. But today, I show you, I lacked nothing. It was you who lacked sight." Her words struck like thunder, and the crowd fell to their knees. Shame covered them like a heavy cloak. But Mama Nnena was not done. "I will not curse you," she said. "I will not leave you. But you must learn. Tomorrow I shall decide what will become of this wealth, whether it will bless this village or whether I will carry it away, leaving you with only the echo of your laughter." The crowd trembled. The chief rose, his voice desperate. "Mama Nnena, forgive us. Give us another chance. Do not take what the gods have returned through you." But Mama Nnena only lifted her hand, silencing him. "The gods will decide," she said, her voice steady, "and their judgment will be revealed in time." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving the entire village drowning in fear, shame, and suspense. The next morning, the village gathered once more in the square. The sun rose slowly, casting golden light upon the huts and the dusty ground. Every man, woman, and child came, their faces heavy with guilt, fear, and anticipation. They knew Mama Nnena held their fate in her hands. At last, she appeared. Her steps were slow, but her presence was commanding. The treasures she had revealed the day before were still before the people, guarded carefully. All eyes followed her, waiting for judgment. Mama Nnena raised her hand, and silence fell over the crowd. "My people," she began, her voice steady, "I have seen your hearts. I have tasted your cruelty, and I have endured your laughter. Yet, even when you mocked me, I still lived among you. I still prayed for your children. I still shared my little food with those in need. I still chose to be part of this village." She paused, her eyes sweeping across their bowed heads. "The gods have spoken. My wealth will not leave this land. It will remain here, not because you deserve it, but because mercy is greater than punishment. But let this be a warning. Never again judge a person by the dust on their clothes or the cracks in their feet. For you do not know the journey they have walked or the treasures they may carry within." Tears filled the eyes of many. The chief stepped forward, falling to his knees before her. "Mama Nnena, forgive us. Today we see clearly you have taught us more than gold ever could." A murmur of agreement rose from the crowd. Men beat their chests, women wiped their eyes, and even the children, who once mocked her, clung to their mothers in shame. Mama Nnena's face softened. "I forgive you," she said. "But remember, true wealth is not in cowries or cloth. True wealth is in kindness, in patience, and in respect. Do not wait until you lose someone before you see their value." The elders nodded in silence, and a great hush fell over the people. In that moment, everyone knew the truth. The old woman they had once mocked was not only rich in treasures, but far richer in wisdom. And so, Mama Nnena became a living proverb in the village. Whenever gossip began, elders would raise their hands and say, "Remember Mama Nnena, and let your tongue be slow." Whenever someone mocked another for being poor or dirty, children would whisper, "Be careful. It may be another Mama Nnena." From that day forward, respect returned to her, not because of the wealth she revealed, but because of the lesson she had carved into every heart.